So we've seen how the genealogy that Aristotle gives us of the city-state in Book 1, Chapter 2 of the Politics, we've seen how it answers that question we started with. What is the good of the political community? Aristotle claims to have identified it. The good of the political community of the city-state is living well, which we last time discussed as what Aristotle means by that is happiness, virtuous, rational activity. The good of the city-state, of the political community, is virtuous, rational activity. Everybody engaging in that kind of activity. That's what the good of the political community is. Now, what I want to do is return to political naturalism, this topic, this subject, this thesis, whatever, political naturalism. And when I introduced it, I said there are three theses that we're going to look at. Human beings are political animals, the political community is natural, and the political community is prior to the individual. Now we're going to go through those in turn. And what we're going to do is try to identify why it is, how it is that Aristotle thinks these things are true, how the genealogy relates to them. So let's start with the first one. Human beings are political animals. Well, one of the things that the genealogy showed that was central to the progression throughout the genealogy was the fact that human beings have an innate or Aristotle calls it a natural urge to form certain of these communities. Aristotle's explicit that the man-woman community and then the master-slave community as well form out of a natural urge. He's also explicit. The village arises from some sort of natural impulse, right? It's a particularly natural kind of community. It's particularly natural with sons to live with sons and the sons of sons, as he puts it. What that all indicates, all this point about these being kind of natural impulses that we have, not things that we plan out and figure, yeah, that's actually the way we should do it, is that what that indicates is that human beings have an innate natural impulse to live in political communities, to live in community in the first place, but then more specifically in the political community. Human beings are naturally social, naturally political, right? The second reason, or the second thing that Aristotle means when he says that human beings are political, another sign of that, shortly after the genealogy, Aristotle describes human beings as being the most political of animals. And that's because they have certain innate natural capacities that are particularly keyed to political life. They have certain innate capacities that are essential for political life. So human beings are the most political animals. They're not the only political animal, according to Aristotle. Ants are political animals. Bees, any animal that's social, that lives in a group, is going to be a kind of political animal, according to Aristotle. Human beings live in groups. Look, instead of living in a beehive, we live in a city-state, in a polis, a political community. But we have innate capacities that are particularly keyed to political life, capacities that other animals don't have. And what he mentions are speech. So we don't just grunt or utter sounds indicating in some very vague or general inarticulate way that something's pleasant or painful or something like that. He seems to think that that's all animals can really accomplish. We can form concepts and communicate concepts precisely and clearly to one another. That kind of capacity, the ability to formulate complex, precise thoughts, makes us more political than other animals because we can interact with and engage with each other in much closer and sophisticated ways and coordinate with each other in much more sophisticated ways. So that's one capacity that particularly gears us towards political life. The other one he mentions is this isn't the way he puts it, but we can call it something like moral perception. We can see things as good or bad, just or unjust, beneficial or useless. And the ability to be able to identify various actions or goods or whatever things we might do into those terms, under those terms, is essential for political life. Political life deals with justice and what's good and what we ought to do. That's acting together, right, to achieve some good. That's what political life in large part consists in. Moral perception obviously aids in that. It's very, you can engage in that kind of activity to a much greater and higher degree if you can see things as good and just, and if you can debate them, if you can communicate those things to other people. So these two capacities kind of go hand in hand, speech and moral perception, but they make us particularly social and particularly political. So ants can communicate in a way. I'm not they. I don't know. They leave pheromones or something. I don't know exactly what they do. Um, they communicate in some kind of way, but they can't coordinate in nearly so sophisticated and complicated a way as human beings do. As complicated as it might get. I mean, ants can do pretty complicated things. Same with bees. But they can't also, but their coordination isn't going to be as complicated or sophisticated, and they can't really discuss with each other the things that their community is organized together to do. Right? They can't do that at all, and so they can't engage in political life to the same degree that we can. And so we are not only political animals; human beings are the most political animals. That's Aristotle's idea.